is wild. That is the kind of like blind, that is saying, I trust, I believe, I have faith in these people. That's not what you should be. Don't be like that. Don't be like Richard. Now, Viva Frey said the solution is actually quite straightforward about how we go forward from here. Replace Bondi, of course, because she's the only problem, right, guys? What was that? Oh, this is, did I click this Bitcoin thing? She doesn't even need to get fired, he says. She can be replaced under the pretext of a conflict of interest. So what, making up a narrative? That seems very dishonest. Given her statements on the Epstein files and need to be independent for the context of step 2, right? So the first point in pretending that Bondi is in any way doing anything that's just out of, like, are we really of the mind that any of them are doing things without Trump's approval? That seems really naive to me. But it says, point number 2, appoint a special prosecutor and investigate investigative committee. A church committee for the Epstein case, right? Because that all worked out for everybody, right? What we're calling for is a nonstop parade of BS that goes on for 6 months that really amounts to nothing, but they can pretend we looked into it and they'll sell you on the false narrative, right? Here's your COVID narrative. Here's your 9/11 narrative. We sure screamed about it for 6 months. I mean, come on. We all know this. Do we really pretend like Congress is going to do anything? Like we're ever going to, because half of them or all of them are implicated on this. I just think it's really naive to pretend like putting this through any kind of like, here's the point. The government is what's being accused. The government is what's on this, and the government's going to investigate itself. This feels like, look, I've seen him speak. This guy's smarter than this, in my opinion. It says, and not just for the Epstein death or client list, but for everything. The Acosta plea deal, what was covered by warrants, and more important, what wasn't. Like all the different parts of this, right? Okay. Why wouldn't you just release the information? This idea that we need the government to parse through this and give us what they think is important, that's not what anybody wants anymore. That's not what anybody should ever want, guys. But he says, unseal everything. Now, yes, I agree with that. Or as much as possible without, that gives them the sidestep, by the way. A detailed report with 12 months of the appointment with full and public. Okay, this sounds like it's going to go on for the next couple of years. And then finally, halfway through, something bigger will happen or a war will break out and everybody misses it. We'll all move on and nobody will. That happens every single time, in my opinion. He says the solution is not complicated. It's actually transparently obvious. Now, why would Bondi have to be removed for any of that? That seems very partisan, self-serving to me. Bondi is just one other player in the same old thing. They're all lockstep with this right now, all of them. So if we're going to pretend like Bondi's doing something wrong, that's Cash, that's Mongino, they're all doing the same thing. Doesn't that seem weird to only point out one? I think that's awesome.